Okay guys, don't know how good this video will turn out. We're going to try it and see though. I suppose I can always delete it and not post it if it don't turn out good. But anyway, we're back on the bench with Mr. Tim's Cobra 2000 again here. Getting ready to start recapping it. And I just realized, you know, that a lot of you guys are probably going to be watching my videos hoping that I know something about this stuff and maybe learn something from me. Boy, have you got a surprise coming. Anyway, wanted to just kind of give you a couple of tips on something here that I take for granted, honestly. Most of you, all of you, may already know this, I don't know. But I thought it might be something good to maybe pass along to you guys. When you're working on the back side of these boards where all the solder connections are, you know, all these little traces or little lines, they can get very confusing. But the one thing that I want to point out, if you notice, let's see if like this trace right here, how big it is part of the biggest trace on the board. Your big trace like this is always going to be your ground trace. This trace is always ground. Let me see if I can get to where you can see better over here. Here, this is all ground trace, negative DC voltage trace. Okay. Now that does not mean that okay, right here, that does not mean that all of these small ones are positive. Some of these will be negative as well. But if you're working on, for example, let's say, that little bit of fuzz out there, let's say you're working on this one right here. Let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit without destroying everything. Let's say you're working on this one right here, or even this one, or this one, you know, one of these two. They're on one of the narrow traces. Don't automatically assume that that's a positive trace. Okay? Of course, if you can power the radio up, you can take a voltmeter and you can check and see if it has positive or negative voltage. See if it's positive or negative or ground, you know, whatever. But anyway, what I wanted to point out on these, if you trace them back, just keep following and following and following back up through here, you'll either come to a point to where it ends, terminates, or it will lead back into, you know, more traces. But some of these big ones like this, they have small little traces that shoot off of them and run through areas like this. So this could very well be connected to this big one. So always take time to trace it out and see where it goes. See if it ties into the big ground trace, negative trace, or not. A lot of folks, I believe, make mistakes in doing that. I just saw something that piqued my curiosity. It didn't mean to leave you hanging there. We'll get to that later. But anyway, I'm gonna stop the video here. Get started on the recap. I'll bring you back in on that here in a little bit, and carry you through some of that with me. Let you follow along. So be back in a little while. Okay guys, back here for a minute. Got the radio turned over. Wanted to touch a little bit on something else here. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see. You know, I should have thought and got one out. Should have had a new one here to demonstrate. And I didn't get one, and I don't even see an old one laying on the workbench. Well, right here. Let me get this. Okay. This one's not going into this radio, by the way. Let me zoom that back just a little bit. Okay. Now, this one, like I said, this is not going in this radio, but if it did, it would go in like this. If you look on top, right here, you'll see that there's a white mark, or two white marks actually in this case. That is the negative side of this cap, or the negative lead. You turn it right over, it's got a negative here, and that corresponds with this one leg right here. Right there. Get this thing turned so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. Anyway, negative leg. This leg is going to go in, of course. I won't say all boards are marked, but very few are not marked, put it that way. But this negative leg, you have to pay attention to where it goes, of course. Each one of these caps, let me get this scooted back where you can see down in here. Each one of these, here, all the way on back here, this big one, all these have this marking. Well, my video skills are really lacking today. I apologize. But anyway, all of them have this marking. If the cap is a white or a gray, it'll probably have a black line down the side here. This cap happens to be black, so it's got a white line. But anyway, on the board, and I know you can't see it here, but I'm looking at it. Right at the end of my pointer, there's a tiny little plus mark, which of course is for positive. That means that the positive leg of that capacitor is going to go into this hole, closest to that plus sign. Something else, when you turn these things over and start searching for these solder connections, for example, this particular cap, one thing to keep in mind is these things are usually oriented one of two ways. They're either setting across the board this way, or they're setting front to back this way. The legs on them, they're just two legs. They're in a line. They'll either be setting front to back like this, or they'll be side to side of the radio, or front to back of the radio. So when you turn this thing upside down and start searching for that, it makes it easier to find if you know, for example, that the one you're working on is oriented front to back of the radio like this, or if it's oriented side to side of the radio like this. So, be back in a little bit. Oh, before I go, occasionally, not very often, you'll find one that's in there on the diagonal this way, meaning your legs are diagonal, in other words, corner to corner, so to speak, of your main radio board. Very few of them, but you will run into them, so be aware of that. Anyway, back in a minute. Alright folks, back here, I got a little tip for you here. I got one pulled out here, a bigger one. As you can see, okay, let me see. This is the back of the radio, and this is the side of the radio. So as you can see, this one went in with the legs front to back of each other. Well, it's hard to do this watching that camera and try to move your stick in the right place. But anyway, let's see if I can do this left-handed. If you look at this front hole, there's a little dot right there that you can see. That is actually a positive sign, or a cross. That is the positive leg of this capacitor. And this capacitor, see if I can get this where you guys can see it. I don't know which way is going to be the right way, probably this way. But anyway, it's a 470 microfarad, 10 volt. Now, if you don't have the exact value, the 470, the microfarad range needs to stay the same if at all possible. If you simply don't have it or can't find it, which I can't really imagine will be the case, that can be a little larger, 480, 490, 500, you know, something in that neighborhood, or because these things have a tolerance, you know, so much above or so much below the marked value. So if this one is good, chances are, if you checked it on the machine, which I'm not going to because I'm replacing all of them anyway, but chances are it wouldn't even be 470 anyway. Now, the voltage, why does a CB radio that runs off of 13.8 volts or 12 volt system, why do they put 10 volt caps in there? Well, the answer to that is some of the circuitry in there is less than 12 volts, so 10 volts may be adequate for whatever particular circuit that it's in, but never ever go lower on the voltage rating. You can go up. In fact, you need to go up. Every one I replace, I try to step up at least one level on the voltage rating. This one is a 10 volt. You can go up, you know, if you could find a 470 at 50 volt, that would be acceptable, not a problem. So anyway, just wanted to share that little bit of fascinating information with you. Be back in a little bit. Okay, back again. This video is going to be one of those, I'm in and out, in and out, in and out, back and forth. But also wanted to show you guys something else. Here, I don't know if you're going to be able to actually see right there. I think you can actually see the leg of the cap that I just put in, and then here is the other one that I just, that's the two legs of the capacitor I just installed. I wanted to let me see if I can zoom in a little bit without messing everything up. Okay, and it's not wanting to focus. See if that'll clear out in just a second. Apparently not. Okay, we'll go back the other way. Yep, fantastic cameraman. Okay, here we go. Now, if you look all around the edges, you see all this brown crusty stuff. That's actually nothing but flux, soldering flux. It's sometimes in the solder, depending on which type you use, so on and so forth. Anyway, that just it scratches off. I'll clean all that off when I get done recapping the radio. But I have these, my special little side cutters. You can buy these at Walmart, all the electronic supply houses, all that. But once you get everything soldered back in, you just go in here at the base of it, right down against the solder, snip, and here, snip, and that leaves a nice clean installation. But that'll be it for this video. I'm going to go ahead and finish recapping the radio, and I won't be back until I get the radio completely recapped. I'll start another video on the radio once that's done, and we're moving on to the next project. So anyway, hope it was helpful. Maybe somebody out there can get some information out of it, and hopefully as time goes along I'll get better at this movie making deal here, and be able to quit working on radio and start producing movies for Hollywood. Thanks guys. Red Eagle, we out of here.